If you've ever gone to a buffet, you likely treat the name buffet as a promise. The promise is very simple. If you come here, you're going to leave satisfied, perhaps even stuffed and overflowing. That's the promise. No matter the cuisine, no matter where it is, that you can eat and truly be satisfied. But there's a critical flaw with this idea. Because as much as we would like to be satisfied for longer than a little while, that critical flaw comes to light in just a few hours. Now, I'm not talking about an upset stomach. Usually that happens very shortly after. I'm talking about a few hours after that, whenever that very same pain or that ache that led you to eat at the buffet in the first place all of a sudden rears its ugly head again. You're hungry in the same way you were hungry before. We have a lot of such desires. It's not just about the desire that we have to fill our bellies or to drink whatever we can so that we no longer thirst. That those are important desires, but what about the desires that are deeper? The ones in our hearts and even in our soul. Are those being satisfied right now? And are we satisfying them with the right things? Or perhaps even the right person? We started off this morning with a reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. So this comes from about Isaiah 55 in the neighborhood of that chapter. And as such, we have to remember that Isaiah speaks to a people in exile. So when he's speaking, he wants to make sure his message is heard and received well. So he's using this beautiful imagery that they would know and they would appreciate. All you who thirst, come to the water. All you who have no money, come and receive grain, and come and eat. That he wants them to understand this desire and this longing that's in their hearts. And then he continues on. Why spend your wages for what fails to satisfy and is not bread? He's asking these questions not necessarily because they're physically hungry, although they very well may be, but he wants to actually start to key in on something much deeper in the heart, in the soul. That as they're in that place of exile, he wants them to be aware of their desire, of their longing, whether it's restoration, whether it's freedom, whether it's simply being known and acknowledged by God. That all of those desires are only ever satisfied through the Lord, their God. And so he wants them to stop looking for all of the things that are leaving them wanting for more and instead seek after God. That's why the responsorial psalm plugs in so well. The hand of the Lord feeds us. He answers all our needs. Notice, it didn't just say he answers all of our hunger. He answers all our needs if we trust him. And on that point, we pivot over to St. Paul in his letter to the Romans. This passage is one of my favorites because it asks a crucial question and one that bears some thinking. What can separate us from the love of Christ? And he goes through several different possibilities. Can trial, can all sorts of different things that would stress us during this life, can mistreatment, can nakedness, can the sword, can any of these things separate us from the love of God? And he comes back to the answer. None of these can. That the one who has conquered overwhelmingly so that none of these things can keep us from him. And then he continues on. He says, neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor present things, nor future things. None of these can separate us from the love of God. But I would add a parenthetical statement at the end. There is one thing that can try to keep us from the love of God. And it's not Satan, it's not the devil, it's ourselves. That oftentimes when we seek things that are not God, we're the ones that kind of push back on the love of God and really don't receive it as well as we ought. Then we move to the gospel. Jesus is moving to a deserted place, and he loved to do this, especially in moments when he was about to pray. But notice the crowds, they beat him there. And he disembarked, he gets out, he sees the crowd, and his heart is moved with pity again. That he sees their need, and he answers it. He cures their sick. He teaches them. He goes into their midst. But as he's doing so for quite some time, the disciples start to notice a technical glitch, so to speak, that it's evening. They're going to want to eat very soon. So they start to bring this to Jesus' attention as if he doesn't already know. They say, dismiss the crowds so that they can go to the villages and then find something to eat. He says, don't send them away. Give them some food yourselves. And they start to kind of rebut that idea, and they say, all that we have here are 5 loaves and 2 fish. Couldn't even make a dent in a crowd this big. And yet Jesus has the crowd sit down. He has the disciples bring those 5 loaves and 2 fish to him. He blesses it, then he breaks it, and then it is distributed. And notice what happens. That this next line is potent. They all ate and were satisfied. All of them ate until they were satisfied. There are some commentators out there that like to say this is a miracle of sharing, that this is just them learning to kind of pass the bread around and kind of give just a little bit so that each has some. But notice, that's not the magnitude that Matthew's talking about. He says all ate, all of them, and they were satisfied. They did not want for anything more. And then, as if to drive the point home, Matthew includes this extra detail that this 5 loaves and 2 fish, which should have conceivably easily fit into 1 wicker basket, could not fit into 12. That this is a miracle. But Christ isn't a magician. He's not just a prophet. He's the Messiah. And that's why Matthew, he includes all of these details, because he wants to make it very clear. This isn't just another significant person in history. This is the person. This is the Messiah, the chosen one, the one who is to come and set his people free. Here's the proof. But that line, they all ate and were satisfied. It sounds like a beautiful thought. And yet, we have to wonder, is this just so that Jesus can be this sort of miracle worker that feeds his people and just gives them bread? While he could satisfy just our physical longing, we have to understand that this is actually painting something out for us that's much more vivid and much more deep. Because Jesus isn't just here to satisfy our hunger or quench our thirst, but he is here to satisfy our hearts, our souls. That he is here to satisfy everything, and not just a little bit, but overabundantly, overflowing. That he knows our hearts. He wants to fill them up completely. But there's an issue with this. The issue is that too often we go around this world and we seek things that we think will satisfy our hearts and leave us wanting for more. What are some of these things? Well, there are some things that on the surface level that could be good, but sometimes they do block us off or get in the way of our relationship with God. Take, for example, our cell phone. It's a good in itself. It's great to be able to reach out and communicate. But how many times do we start to feel addicted, as if something's missing if it's not in our hand or on our person? That it can be good, but sometimes we're looking to it to satisfy something it's not meant to satisfy. Or sometimes television, that we start to look and we watch TV show after TV show or movie after movie. And why? Because we want to be entertained. We want to be satisfied. Or sometimes it's the other things in life as well. Sometimes we go around and make purchases. We spend our time on Amazon looking for this, that, and the other thing and finding a few other things as we shop. And then we have it all come to our front door. But we might be satisfied for a moment, but we're never truly satisfied. Maybe it's sports. Maybe it's the entertainment. Maybe it's the pastimes. Maybe it's our life. Maybe it's all of the trips that we have to take. That all of these things we're seeking because we think they'll satisfy us, they'll entertain us, they'll make us happy. But the critical flaw, they always leave. They always fall short. That our heart still speaks and it says, I want something more. Then sometimes we dabble in other things as well. Then these aren't just the things that I just mentioned, but these are the things where God said not to do them or that we should do something else. The sins that we might encounter. And why do we do those things? Because we think that they'll satisfy. We think that they'll make us happy, even though at the end of the day, whenever we're honest, they not only don't satisfy, they leave us more empty than we were. And what are some of these things? We know the sins quite well. That if we're breaking the third commandment, not going to church, if we're impure, whether by ourselves or with another, or with devices, whatever it may be, or whether it's lying, whether it's spreading gossip, whether it's not being as faithful to our prayer life as we should be, whether it's spreading all sorts of things around in our community, that sometimes we find gossip or we find just news has to travel, that we find a lot of different things that start to become something that takes life away. It doesn't add to it. We seek them out because we think they'll satisfy, but they leave us more empty. And all of these things go to say that our hearts are searching. They're looking for something. They want to be satisfied. They want to be happy. But we're searching in the wrong places too often, or more often than not. And so what are some of the things our heart might be searching for? If we get in tune with it, if we really take some time to be silent, to meditate, to think about the greater mysteries of life, what are the things that our hearts might want? They might want security. They might want peace. They might want joy. They might want fulfillment. They might want happiness. They might want that sense that we belong. They might want that sense that we're loved, that we've got accompaniment, that we're never alone. All of these desires and many more, these are what our heart wants. These are what our heart desires. And your heart and my heart, they have desires specific to them right at this moment. Maybe your heart's feeling particularly lonely. Maybe my heart wants some answers. There are all sorts of ways our hearts have desire. They're thirsty. They're hungering for something. But then there's a crucial question. Do we trust Jesus enough to ask Him to fill those places? Not trying to go around and fill our lives with gadgets, with entertainment, with trips, with all sorts of things, or even the sins that we might commit. Not trying to satisfy those desires ourselves, but actually seeing them for what they are, an opportunity to ask God and to unite with Him and build our relationship with Him. That really, that's the point of this gospel. Jesus is very aware. We have desires, we have wants, we have needs in this life, that there are things our hearts are longing for that we can't quite name. And yet Jesus is the answer. And He knows. We're in a world full of buffets, so to speak. Places that promise that we'll be satisfied, or things that promise that we'll be satisfied. But at the end of the day, if we're honest, leave us wanting for more. And that is our opportunity to surrender those things, to put them in their place, and to seek after the one who satisfied over 5,000 people so long ago and knows your heart and mine so well as to want to satisfy it today. Sure, we might know a buffet or two in our life, but there's someone who wants to satisfy us for even longer and for all of eternity. The question is not whether Jesus can satisfy our hearts. We know He can, and He wants to. The question is, do we trust Him enough that we seek Him as the object of our heart's desire and every hunger and every thirst?